proudly co-hosted by the Government of Canada, UNFPA in Benin and UNFPA in Kenya, the governments of Benin and Kenya, and civil society. Now, please take a moment to confirm your preferred language channel interpretation. It's available in English, in French, in Swahili, in Arabic, in Portuguese, and International Sign Language. We want to thank everyone once again for joining us on this first Africa Symposium on Technology-Facilitated Gender-Based Violence. My name is Janet Mbogwa. I am a journalist, author, gender equality advocate, among many other things. But once again, really just a warm welcome to all our participants joining from across Africa and beyond. This is a historic moment because this is the first ever Africa Symposium, specifically on technology-facilitated gender-based violence. It's bringing together governments, civil society, technologists, and advocates, and the single purpose is this: creating safer digital spaces for women and for girls. To officially open our symposium this morning, we'd now like to begin with introductory remarks from our distinguished co-hosts and partners who've been very instrumental in bringing this symposium to life. I'd now like to begin by introducing the UNFPA Benin country representative, Dr. Rishmo Tiemoko. Dr. Rishmo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Je vais faire mon discours en français. Pendant la représentante du ministre des Affaires sociales et de la microfinance du Bénin, pendant la représentante du ministre du numérique et de la digitalisation du Bénin, Madame la présidente de l'Institut national de la femme, Madame le ministre du genre, de la culture, des affaires, des arts et de l'héritage du Kenya, Madame les représentants de l'ambassade du Canada, honorables partenaires, chers invités, mesdames et messieurs, c'est vraiment pour moi un grand plaisir et un grand honneur ce matin de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à ce premier symposium africain sur les violences basées sur le genre, facilité par la technologie. Cet événement co-organisé par les bureaux de UNFPA ici au Bénin et au Kenya, avec l'appui d'Affaires mondiales Canada, dans le cadre de ce programme mondial sur rendre tous les espaces sûrs, ce que nous appelons en anglais Making Our Space Safe, marque une étape importante dans notre engagement commun pour la sécurité numérique des femmes et des filles en Afrique et dans le monde. Alors que la connectivité s'étend rapidement à travers l'Afrique, de nouvelles formes de violence apparaissent. Harcèlement en ligne, diffusion d'images intimes sans consentement, cyber-intimidation, surveillance numérique et j'en passe. Ces violences, souvent invisibles, ont pourtant des conséquences profondes sur la dignité, la sécurité et la participation des femmes dans la société. Les chiffres sont alarmants. Selon l'Economic Intelligence Unit, 90% des femmes africaines auraient déjà subi au moins une forme de violence en ligne. Ces statistiques représentent des vies brisées, des voix réduites au silence, des droits même bafoués. Face à cela, UNFPA réaffirme son engagement à lutter contre toutes les formes de violence, y compris celles facilitées par la technologie. Nous agissons à travers 5 axes clés: le renforcement des mécanismes de réponse, la prévention, la mise à jour des cadres politiques et juridiques, l'amélioration de la recherche et des données et la concertation pour une action collective. Ce symposium donc s'inscrit dans cette dynamique de partenariat, de réflexion et d'action concertée. Durant ces deux journées, nous allons donc explorer ensemble les réalités des violences basées sur le genre facilitées par la technologie en Afrique, partager nos expériences et proposer des solutions concrètes adaptées à nos contextes. L'objectif est très clair: faire du numérique un levier d'émancipation plutôt qu'un espace de vulnérabilité. Ce symposium est aussi un appel à la solidarité et à la responsabilité collective. Il nous invite à bâtir des passerelles entre gouvernements, société civile, secteur privé et institutions internationales pour créer un environnement sûr et inclusif où chaque femme et chaque fille pourra s'épanouir en ligne comme hors de ligne. À la veille, bien sûr, des 16 jours d'activisme contre les violences basées sur le genre, cette rencontre représente une occasion stratégique pour renforcer nos messages et transformer nos engagements en actions concrètes. Ensemble, donc, faisons du numérique un espace de liberté, de sécurité et d'égalité. Je vous remercie et je vous souhaite des échanges riches et fructueux pour un espace en ligne sûr. Merci.
Thank you very much. Those were some opening remarks from the UNFPA Benin Country Representative, Dr. Richmore Tiemako. Thank you for those remarks. Also, kindly note, I will be making reference to notes to ensure we have a smooth delivery of this event and might return to some guidelines every so often should we need to repeat them. As we continue, we now invite UNFPA Kenya representative, Mr. Anders Thompson. Mr. Thompson, the floor is yours.
Good morning. On behalf of UNFPA Kenya, hamjambo na karibuni nyote. Sabah khair, bonjour, bon dia. It's really an immense pleasure to be part of this opening session this morning for the first Africa Symposium on Technology Facilitated Gender-Based Violence. This is a combination of months of work, collaboration between UNFPA in Kenya, in Benin, our headquarters, and the Symposium Advisory Committee, which has done a fantastic job getting us to this very point today. We have to thank the governments of Benin and Kenya, who are the trailblazers in Africa, moving very fast to make progress on this extremely important agenda. We want to express our heartfelt appreciation, first and foremost, to Global Affairs Canada for their vision and for their vital support through the Making All Spaces Safe, the MASS program, which is helping us making progress to make sure that technology is a tool for good and not for harm. Technology holds incredible power to connect, to transform lives. However, in Africa and across the globe, for too many women and girls, it has also become a space for danger and exclusion. The very stark statistics on gender-based violence or sexual gender-based violence have been exacerbated and amplified by the use of technology. Technology is there to help humanity become better, help humanity create better connections between us, better lives for all, better access for all. But when we lack legislation, regulation, guidance from the policy level, too often it is turned into a tool for abuse, for harm, for vengeance, for really things that can damage not only women, but the social fabric of our societies. So we are immensely grateful to all of the participants today, and particularly for Kenya and Benin, supported by UNFPA and Global Affairs Canada, to make sure that we make progress. We have worked very closely with many partners at governmental level and also civil society a success.
Thank you. And just as we continue with today's program, a few announcements. One of them is, please note that this is a very inclusive symposium. You can select a language of your choice from the interpretation panel. So please make sure you're comfortable, make sure you have a language that you are more aligned to. That is available on the interpretation channel. You can always ask the technical team, either in private chat or in the chat, if you do need any assistance with making sure you have the language of your choice. And the other thing is, we've already seen some of you saying hello to each other in the chat. Please do so. Tell us where you're listening and watching from, which country. We've seen Cameroon, Burundi, Kenya in the chat. Please let us know throughout this symposium. It really is for all of us across the continent and beyond, and it gives us a chance to connect. So please continue to do so. We'll now move to ministry representatives from Benin and Kenya. I would now like to invite Agnes Badu, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Ministry of Social Affairs, to give her remarks. Welcome. Once again, we'd like to invite Agnes Badu, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Ministry of Social Affairs of Benin, to please give us your opening remarks. Allow us, please, in the interest of time, to move on to
Bonjour.
the next speaker.
Vous m'entendez? Oui, je peux. Bonjour, vous m'entendez? Vous m'entendez? Bonjour. Bonjour.
Yes, Madam Agnes Badu.
Oui, vous
Yes, we can hear
m'entendez?
you. Please proceed with your opening remarks.
Oui, vous m'entendez?
But we cannot see you, so please switch on your camera. We can hear you, but we can't see you. Yes, we can see you now. Yes, thank you very much. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Donc, merci. Et Madame la ministre du Numérique et de la Digitalisation du Bénin, Madame la présidente de l'Institut national de la femme du Bénin, Madame la ministre du Genre, de la Culture, des Arts et de l'Héritage du Kenya, Mesdames les représentantes du bureau de l'ambassade du Canada au Bénin et au Kenya, Mesdames les représentantes du bureau de l'ambassade du Canada au Bénin et au Kenya, chers membres du corps diplomatique ici représentés, chers distingués membres de la société civile, bonjour. Au nom de Madame la ministre des Affaires sociales et de la microfinance, qui auraient bien voulu prendre personnellement part à la présente session, je voudrais vous souhaiter la bienvenue à ce premier symposium africain sur les violences basées sur le genre, facilité par la technologie. J'adresse mes vives et chaleureuses salutations à toutes et à tous les participantes à cette rencontre virtuelle qui nous réunit en ce jour pour échanger sur les bonnes pratiques et renforcer les actions de prévention et de réponse aux violences basées sur le genre, facilitées par la technologie. Ce symposium n'est pas seulement
This
un événement
symposium
inscrit dans notre
is not
calendrier
only
institutionnel.
an event in our calendar, it
d'action.
is a
Un moment
meeting
d'unité
of
africaine
reflection
face à
and
une
an
problématique
important
encore trop peu
moment
visible,
of
mais
African
pourtant
unity,
réelle dans nos pays.
and which will
Moment
enable us
historique.
to discuss
Ce
together.
symposium
It is a
rassemble des voix
historical
africaines
moment.
puissantes,
This
des
symposium
savoirs
brings
complémentaires,
together
des
different
expériences
African
de terrain
voices
et des
to be able
engagements
to
sincères
exchange
autour d'un même
experiences
but.
from the
Comprendre et
ground,
combattre
and
les violences
also
qui, à l'ère du
other
numérique,
experiences which will enable
se
us
sont
to
déplacées
fight
dans nos télévisions, nos
sexual
écrans,
violence,
nos réseaux
which
sociaux.
is
En effet,
there in the
l'espace
social
numérique
networks, on
s'impose
our
de plus en
phones,
plus dans notre
or
environnement
TV.
de vie quotidienne
This
en raison de la
symposium
digitalisation
also
accélérée
enables
des
us
services,
to look
des
at
services de
accelerated
l'administration tant publique que privée.
exchanges through
Ces services se
technology.
dématérialisent.
And
Le e-commerce
this
se généralise.
service that
Les
the
bibliothèques numériques
materializes and
émergent.
generalizes
Par conséquent, de la
through
société
the
sont
digital
soumises à la
library,
technologie
where
et ses effets
a
négatifs
lot in the
comme
society
les
is
violences en ligne.
done through
Mesdames et
technology,
messieurs, si
including
autrefois les lieux de
sexual
commission de
violence.
violences basées
Ladies
sur
and
le genre
gentlemen,
étaient l'espace
commission of
physique,
violence
c'est-à-dire la
through
famille, la communauté,
sexual violence
l'administration
based
publique
on
et privée,
gender,
l'école, les
the
marchés, les ateliers,
private and
etc.
public
Aujourd'hui, se perpétuent dans l'espace
administration
numérique.
today has
Rien n'échappe
noted
à
how
ce
much is
phénomène
done
en
in the
dépit des
digital
avancées
space.
notables
We, in
enregistrées en
spite of
matière de lutte contre les
the
violences basées
advancement
sur le genre.
in the fight
C'est
against
d'ailleurs cette
GBV,
raison qui a poussé le ministère
it
des
is for
Affaires
this
sociales et de
reason
la
that
microfinance
the Minister
à
for Social
réaliser cette
Affairs and
année deux
Microfinance
études exploratoires et
realized
d'état des lieux
they came up with
pour
two
mieux
studies
contextualiser
this
ces
year
interventions.
in order to
Ces enquêtes
contextualize
ont
this
révélé
intervention. This
que les violences
survey
basées sur le
revealed
genre
that
facilitées par la
GBV,
technologie touchent
facilitated by
majoritairement les
technology,
femmes adultes,
touches
les jeunes
mainly
filles de moins de 18 ans,
women
chacune
and
représentant 70% des
girls of less
victimes
than 18
entre temps
years,
des enquêtes.
and touching on their
Les formes
private
concrètes de
life.
violences basées sur le genre facilitées par la
The
technologie constatées
violence
ou
based on
enregistrées
gender
par les
and
acteurs
facilitated
institutionnels
by
sont le
technology
harcèlement en
has been
ligne, par
registered
exemple, soit
by
fait ou
different
sans nom, et les
actors,
menaces et
and
insultes en ligne
this
consécuentes
happens
sont
mainly
le chantage,
online.
45%,
There is
le partage d'images
blackmail
sexuelles sans
at
consentement,
45%, and there's a lot
Ces
that is
violences peuvent commencer en ligne,
happening on
se propager
such as
et s'aggraver dans
consensual
l'espace
sharing
physique
of
réel ou
images.
vice-versa. On
Uh,
assiste ainsi à un continuum
we
dangereux
therefore
de
see
violence en
a
ligne et hors
dangerous
ligne,
continuum of
source de
violence,
souffrance en
online
silence,
violence, a
de
source of
peur, de honte,
silent
d'angoisse,
suffering on the
d'insomnie,
part of
d'exclusion et de
women
déchéance
and
socio-professionnelle,
children who also know
voire d'actes
exclusion.
suicidaires pour
And
les personnes
this can
vulnérables,
even lead
notamment
to
les femmes
suicidal
et les filles.
acts for women
Mesdames
and
et messieurs,
girls. Ladies and
face aux
gentlemen,
conséquences tragiques, nous n'avons qu'une seule option.
before this, in the face of
Réagir,
these tragic
agir.
consequences, we must
Réagir,
react
c'est
and
prendre
act.
conscience de la réalité des VBD
Reacting
facilités
means
par la technologie et leurs impacts
realizing
sur
how
la
much
santé,
damage
la
can be
sécurité des
facilitated by
populations,
technology,
ainsi que sur les
and
politiques
making
de
sure
développement
that the
socio-économique.
security of populations is looked into. Acting means reinforcing mechanisms of prevention and response in order to better protect the population, especially women and girls, against this menace that is linked to technology. In this dynamic, the Minister for Social Affairs and Microfinance, with the support of UNFPA, has actively tried to implement different actions and develop a global program to attack this problem. This program gives us the possibility to think and reflect further about this violence facilitated by technology and demystify and enrich one another and be able to move forward and create a sure and safe world for each and everyone. I am convinced that this meeting will be a success due to the active participation of everyone. I therefore encourage you to share your experiences and learn from one another. I will not end my speech without reiterating my gratitude to UNFPA and the support for the fight against this violence in our different states. It is because of this engagement that I declare on behalf of the Minister for Social Actions and Microfinance in Benin to declare this colloque on this symposium on GBB facilitated by technology to officially open, and thank you for your attention.
Very much. That was Agnes Badu, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Ministry of Social Affairs in Benin, giving us her opening and welcoming remarks and asking us to also share in our experiences throughout this symposium. As we proceed to invite our other speakers, another quick reminder, please note that you can select a language of your choice from the interpretation panel. You can switch to the language of your choice. It's available in the chat, and also please note our technical team is on standby to make sure that you are comfortable on the same. So please make sure you select a language of your choice. We're now going to invite Marius Atai Gedebi, who is the president of the National Women's Institute, I beg your pardon, Marius Atai Gedebi, who is the Secretary General of Ministry of Digitalization representative from Benin. Marius, if you can hear us, please, the floor is yours. Okay. All right. We are going to move on and invite our next speaker for the symposium. This is Ms. Uget Bope Nakaja, the president of the National Women's Institute of Benin, to give us her welcome remarks. Over to you.
Thank you, Madame. I'm going to have my speech in French. Madame la ministre des Affaires sociales et de la microfinance du Bénin, représentée, Madame la ministre du numérique et de la digitalisation au Bénin, représentée, Madame la ministre du genre, de la culture, des arts et de l'héritage du Kenya, Monsieur le représentant résident de l'UNFPA au Bénin, Mesdames les représentantes du bureau de l'ambassade du Canada au Bénin et au Kenya, présidentes et présidents des organisations de la société civile, chers partenaires techniques et financiers, honorables participantes et participants, c'est avec une profonde conviction et un sens aigu du devoir que je prends la parole à l'ouverture de ce premier symposium africain sur les violences basées sur le genre, facilité par la technologie. Au-delà de sa dimension institutionnelle, ce rendez-vous marque une étape historique, celle de la reconnaissance d'une réalité trop longtemps ignorée, une réalité où la technologie, censée libérer, éduquer et connecter, devient maintenant un terrain de domination, de harcèlement et de contrôle. Nos sociétés ont accompli des progrès notables dans la lutte contre les violences basées sur le genre. Nous avons bâti des lois, des mécanismes de protection, des centres d'écoute, des cellules d'accompagnement. Mais aujourd'hui, une nouvelle forme de violence s'impose à nous, invisible, silencieuse et virale. Elle traverse les écrans et s'immisce dans les vies. Les violences facilitées par la technologie ne détruisent pas les corps. Elles s'en prennent à l'esprit.
Violence facilitated by technology affects confidence and attacks the image and the capacity for women to exist. It shows itself through different forms. There is the cyber harassment, there's manipulation, digital manipulation, and also digital surveillance in our very homes. This affects, there are different types of messages, photos, and with everyone. There's a young woman who is humiliated. There's a woman who is broken. So the fight for equality is going to be done in a cyberspace. The struggle has to change. We have to have different policies. And as president of the National Institute, but also as an African woman, and knowing the realities of our continent, I understand to what extent this fight is technical and moral. It shows what already exists and reproduces in the networks, what we have not yet sorted out in our homes, in our institutions, and in our mentality. We need to make the digital space one of expression, free expression, and not humiliation. It needs to be a space for emancipation and not exclusion. It should be a space where every woman can exist and innovate and be herself. In Benin, through the project Making All Spaces Safe, we have tried to fight GBV facilitated by technology. This consists putting in place the possibility of documentation and the training of those who are able to find ways of controlling this violence, especially young people. We know that this fight goes beyond the borders of our country, and that is why this symposium is a platform for discussion, for reflection together in order to defend the women and the girls in Africa. I would like to look at three main spheres of our ecosystem. First of all, the states who need to sanction and address the question. We have also technological firms who need to bear the responsibility and who need to put in place measures to control, and then the community needs to look at this problem and not bury itself in the culture of silence. We need to show our young people that there should be dignity, and that GBV facilitated by technology is not just a question of sanctioning those who are responsible for it. We need to give women and girls their voice. We need to put in place a space where survivors are not seen as victims. This symposium enables us to look at the importance of respect and solidarity. We should refuse the fact that technology becomes an element of domination and becomes a source of sovereignty. Ladies and gentlemen, the technology needs to be to promote equality, and we need to make sure that every woman, without exception, whether they should be ambitious, they should be courageous, and we should put in place actions that make sure that every space, whether it is physical, virtual, political, or economic, represents a place where women can live their lives and live their dreams. Thank you so much for your attention.
Bonjour, mesdames, messieurs. Ministère numérique Kodaté.
We thank
Good
you very
morning,
much for giving
ladies and
your
gentlemen.
Okay, and she also spoke about the fact that the spaces need to be safe, a space of inclusion and emancipation and not lack of safety, and that we should not encourage a culture of silence. Before we introduce the next speaker, a few announcements which I'll be making from time to time. First of all, thank you to the over 300 participants who have joined us on the chat. And because we have been asking you to tell us your name, to tell us where you're from, we want to appreciate the likes of Emmanuel Kayumbi from Kenya, Zainab Abdullahi from Cameroon, Prudence from Uganda. As we said, just share. A lot of you are also talking about the work you do in this space. So please be active on the charts, make new friends and colleagues and allies. This is an inclusive symposium, and we're really forging towards a solution. And then once again, please note, you can select a language of your choice at the interpretation panel. There are several languages available to make sure that everybody feels seen, heard, and everybody is comfortable during this symposium. We would now like to introduce our next speaker, Marius Atai Redebe, who is the Secretary General of Ministry of Digitalization representative from Benin. Welcome.
Bonjour, mesdames, messieurs. Toutes mes excuses.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me for missing, not being able to take the floor. This was because of technical problems. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Ministers, distinguished partners of United Nations, distinguished president and member of the civil societies, ladies and gentlemen, experts. If we are here today, it is because the digital space has changed, and we need to notice that every transformation has its consequences. For the last 10 years, we have noted the transformation, that technology is no longer just a tool, it is a culture, a space in life with a lot of power. And instead of freeing voices, it has amplified violence. And we also need to look at its new form. We need to look at justice and what is happening. Violence based on gender is not an isolated incident. This is what we have seen in our society. And we have noticed that this has now come up online. It is an attack against the participation of women in the digital space. The numerical space has become a space for war on equality.
Ce symposium nous invite à poser une question essentielle.
This violence can be seen, and it is a problem. We would want that technology be a way of connecting us and not create a space where there is where violence is encouraged. We need to put up an ecosystem and digital security so that we ensure the right to the right to this space. Women need to be able to be free to act in this digital environment. In Benin, our ministry has put digital confidence in for women. We would not want this space to represent fear and violence against women. We are doing everything to be able to ensure cyber security for the citizens, and especially the young and the women. We want to do our best to prevent cyber crimes and cyber stalking. Everything that contributes to any negative actions in the digital space has to be fought, but we know that these measures are not enough. We need to put up a culture of respect and digital responsibility because we know that we are not the only ones. We know that this violence spreads, and therefore this symposium is a historical mark. It is the first time that the African continent is coming together to talk about this violence facilitated by technology. We are therefore looking at this. We'd use our own tools, because Africa is not late, it is moving, and this movement should include the protection of women in the digital space. I think that our efforts should be, first of all, to look at the youth who are our main capital, our community values, which will enable us to make sure that nobody suffers. And then the third thing is our creativity to see how we can innovate. We also see the importance of training in order to be able to master the digital space. With that, we know that it's important to work with the governments and also the community. I would like to insist on a point where we need to see this as the danger to be able to civilize the digital space and also reinstate the value of the African community and also respect justice and create a digital space that will restore confidence. We would also want a world where women do not fear humiliation and that technology does not create inequalities and instead it should encourage emancipation and leadership in our social sphere. GBB facilitated by technology needs to be fought for the good of African women, and we need therefore to through this symposium to invite us to not only to dream but also to construct and also to ensure that Africa benefits from the digitization. And we therefore need to engage and commit ourselves so that our actions will make sure that the digital space becomes a space of quality. I wish you success. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much to our speaker there, Marius Atai Gedebe, who is the Secretary General of Ministry of Digitalization representative from Benin, saying that we need a world where women feel safe online, that Africa is moving, it's not late, and therefore we should catch up even when it comes to online safety. Thank you to those of you who continue to join us for this historic symposium. A very quick reminder, please, that you can choose a language of your choice from the interpretation channel. We have several languages you can choose from, and please make sure you let us know where you're joining from, your name, your country, your greeting. We want to get to know you throughout this symposium. Let's now continue with introductory remarks. I'd now like to welcome Ms. Magdalene Kipkenay, Deputy Director, Gender, representing Honorable Anne Wangombe, the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action in Kenya. Welcome, Ms. Magdalene Kipkenay.
Thank you very much, Janet. I'm here to represent my Principal Secretary, Honorable Anne Wangombe, in this very important symposium. So I'm here to give remarks on her behalf, but before I give her remarks, allow me in a special way to convey her warm greetings and apologies. So at this juncture, I will go to her brief remarks, which I may not read everything, but I would like to, on behalf of our country, welcome everyone. So it is a great honor to welcome you to this first African Symposium on Technology Facilitated GBV as the co-host. This forum is aimed at sharing knowledge, best practices, and fostering stronger networks, partnership, and learning, and cooperation for collective action in creating safer digital and physical spaces for girls and women. It's also time to reflect on our shared understanding that gender equality and digital inclusion are both essential and interdependent pillars of progress for our continent. And at this time, I also wish to acknowledge our guests, distinguished guests from the Republic of Benin, a colleague from the Ministry of ICT, our development partners, collaboration between UNFPA Kenya, UNFPA Benin, with the general support. This partnership reminds us that no country can address GBV alone. It requires solidarity, shared accountability, and cross-border. So you'll allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to also give an overview or key highlights about the Kenyan situation on digital connectivity. Kenya is at the forefront of digital growth in Africa and continues to make a great strides in digital connectivity. So far, we have over 33 million mobile internet users. Smartphone penetration exceeds 65%, and our internet penetration also stands approximately 42%. These figures reflect a growing digital citizenry whose voices, ambitions, and interactions deserve protection and dignity from technology-facilitated GBV. This growing digital population demands a corresponding commitment to digital safety, privacy, and rights, particularly for women and girls who are disproportionately affected by TFGBV. The alarming reality of TFGBV in Kenya, I'll give a few statistics based on a study by UNFPA, rapid study, which shows that nearly 90% of students in 3 sample university institutions or tertiary institutions were interviewed, and the results is that nearly 90% of these students have witnessed online gender-based violence. 39% of them have experienced personally. And among the respondents, 64% report encountering at least a form of TFGBV compared to 35% of male students. The most common forms of TFGBV are online defamation at 21.9%, cyberbullying at 19.1%, non-consensual sharing of intimate images, 17.8%. Another field that is prone to TFGBV is a political space or public space where female candidates, especially during general elections, are targeted. So a few statistics based on the year 2022 Kenya general elections, female candidates whose accounts were monitored revealed that 26% of women faced TFGBV in form of sexual violence, compared to 1% of women, 48% on X, that is former Twitter, compared to 2%, and 56% on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, these are in form of online harassment, cyber stalking, image-based abuse, including AI and deep fakes. So in a nutshell, these statistics are not just numbers. They are lived experiences that underscore the urgency of our collective action as a region or of Africa. The digital world, which should be a space of empowerment and connection, has for too many become a site of fear and harm. Acknowledging that TFGBV has adverse effects, the government of Kenya has put in place various response mechanisms, one being legal and policy frameworks. So already we have a number of legal frameworks, which include Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018, which criminalizes cyber harassment, defamation, and unauthorized sharing of intimate images. We also have the Data Protection Act of 2019, which provides a framework to protect privacy and digital rights. We have the Children's Act. We have the National Policy on Prevention and Response to GBV, just to mention a few other initiatives. Other initiatives include also engagement with technology companies, including Safaricom, Telcom, in exploring safety by design innovations, content moderation, and reporting tools for online abuse. So as we meet today in this symposium, we acknowledge that we have very promising practices and innovations which will help us to combat TFGBV. And despite the persistent challenges, we have some challenges that in as much as the progress made, we acknowledge that there could be persistent challenges which could be cross-cutting even in the continent or globally. This include underreporting of TFGBV due to stigma, fear, or just lack of awareness on existing frameworks. And we also have digital literacy gaps, especially among the vulnerable populations, capacity limitations in those who are charged with law enforcement institutions and justice institutions to investigate and prosecute TFGBV effectively. I think that this is a new area. We also have jurisdictional limitations because of cross-border nature of TFGBV or cybercrime. There is also rapid technological change, including AI-generated abuse and deepfakes. And as we come together, we'd like to make some recommendations for continental collaboration to foster coordinated response. And these are some of the proposals: to establish a continental TFGBV knowledge hubs, consolidate evidence, practices, and survivor-led innovations. We also propose for harmonized digital safety legislation across Africa to ensure accountability beyond borders, co-creating safety by design standards in partnership with technology companies, scaling capacity building efforts for those who are charged with charging those who are abusing or perpetuating TFGBV. Voices in research, policy, and programs. In conclusion, distinguished guests, this symposium is not just merely an exchange of ideas. It's a defining moment. So let us shift from analysis to action and from commitment to collective transformation. Kenya stands resolute in this mission in every digital space as a space of dignity, freedom, and safety. We are proud, therefore, to walk this journey along our African neighbors, global partners, and all stakeholders represented here today. Together, we can ensure that technology is a force for inclusion and not for intimidation. So thank you so much. Those are the PSS remarks. And I'm sorry my voice is not very clear because of a cold, but I hope guests have been able to follow me. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Kipkene, Deputy Director, Gender. She was representing Honorable Anne Wangombe, who is the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action in Kenya. We could hear you loud and clear. Thank you for sharing that data and for, again, pushing for safety online across the continent and in different parts of the world. Again, we'd like to acknowledge those of you who continue to join us from everywhere. A few names we'd like to recognize: Hayung Jeon from South Sudan, Luta Shaba from Uganda. We have Lamaga Tenga from Cameroon, Mohammed Hassan from Mandera, Kenya. We also want to thank Edith Yegon from Nairobi, Doreen Rahina from Ghana, Aristide Yampai from Benin, and Ashifa Agede from Nigeria, among many others of you who have joined, told us your name and where you're from in the chat, which country you're from, the work you do in this space as well. Please continue to engage with each other so that we can form an even broader community. We continue with our opening remarks, and I would now like to welcome Director Rebecca Kelly, Head of Division of Partnerships, Research, and Emerging Technologies at the State Department for ICT and the Digital Economy. She is representing Engineer John Tanui, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Information, Communications, and the Digital Economy, in charge of the State Department for ICT and the Digital Economy, Kenya. Director Rebecca, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Janet. And all protocols observed, allow me to ride on the existing protocols that have been acknowledged, and allow me to read the remarks on behalf of my Principal Secretary, Engineer John Kipchumba Tanui. On behalf of the Ministry of Information, Communication, and the Digital Economy, I extend our gratitude to the organizers, led by UNFPA and all partners who have made this symposium possible. Technology is transforming Africa in all facets, but it must never be at the expense of our people's safety and dignity. Technology-facilitated gender-based violence is a growing threat that silences voices, limits opportunity, and undermines trust in digital spaces. Technology-facilitated gender-based violence is not a peripheral issue. And now we are at a defining test of Africa, whether digital transformation, which we so much leverage on to grow our economies, will be inclusive, just, and sustainable. Online harassment, cyberstalking, digital exploitation are not violations of human rights only, but they are barriers to innovation, participation, and progress. If Africa and our population, especially women and girls, are unsafe online, then our digital economies cannot reach their full potential. With emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and the growth of digital infrastructure, the threat environment for technology-facilitated gender-based violence has exponentially expanded. Therefore, Africa, we should not only react to this challenge, we are to heal and lead, because we are rightfully aware that digital transformation and digital protection must go hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, we therefore have the opportunity to set global standards for digital safety, to craft policies and frameworks that reflect our values of dignity, equality, and humanity. As earlier said by our earlier speaker, Madam Magdalene, Kenya has taken steps through our Data Protection Act and the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act and digital literacy programs to bridge the mitigation and litigations against technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Across the continent and led by the African Union, similar efforts are underway, but the real power lies in our collective action. Harmonization of regional frameworks, building survivor-centered reporting systems, and working with industry to design platforms that are safe by design is our calling today. Ladies and gentlemen, as the ministry in charge of ICT and Digital Economy Kenya, we affirm our commitment to work with UNFPA, African governments, the industry, global partners, to ensure that Africa is not only a part of the digital revolution, but a leader in policy action in defining safety, inclusivity, and humanity in the digital and cyberspace. taking into account that most of the digital platforms are not made in Africa. We seek global partnerships and collaborations to ensure safety of our people. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, this symposium is timely, and I wish us all a great engagement. Together, we can transform digital spaces into platforms of empowerment, equality, and hope for Africa and the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Remarks there from Rebecca Kelly, who is the head of divisions of partnerships, research, and emerging technologies in the State Department for ICT, representing the Principal Secretary, Engineer John Tanui. Thank you for that. In a sentence she said there, the real power lies in our collective action, and also recognizing that this symposium is very timely, happening now. We now continue with our introductory remarks and opening remarks. I'd like to welcome the High Commissioner of Canada to Kenya, and Ambassador to Uganda and Somalia, His Excellency Joshua Taba. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good day, everyone. It's an honor to be with you all today. I will begin my remarks in English and conclude in French.
Please note that we cannot hear you or see you. Mr. Joshua Taba, your camera is off and we also cannot hear you. Please let us know if you're having any challenges. Just trying to ask if His Excellency Joshua Taba is able to hear us. On this end, we cannot see you or hear you.
Hi, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you. If you can switch on your camera and let us know if you have any challenges. Perfect.
Thank you. Can you see me now?
You. Yes, we can see you and hear you. Please proceed.
Great. Good day, and sorry for that confusion. It's an honor to join you today. I will begin my remarks in English and conclude in French. Warm regards and greetings to the representatives of UNFPA in Benin and Kenya, and to ministerial and other government representatives from Benin, Kenya, and to all distinguished participants today for this inaugural Africa Symposium on Technology-Facilitated Gender-Based Violence. Canada is proud to co-host this event and to focus on the intersection of gender equality, human rights, and digital inclusion. Digital transformation is reshaping our societies, expanding access to information and connecting communities in unprecedented ways. In fact, given the changing fiscal landscape for international assistance, this meeting itself is a great example of how technology can support innovation and evolution, demonstrating that we can use development assistance funds efficiently and effectively. We are meeting virtually, but still fostering an important and compelling global dialogue. However, as we also know, this technological progress has also created new frontiers of harm. Technology-facilitated gender-based violence has become a pervasive and insidious form of violence that threatens the participation of women and girls in digital spaces. It tries to silence their leadership and erodes trust in technology itself. It can be particularly harmful to specific groups of women and girls, such as those with disabilities, those who are forcibly displaced, and those who are younger, like adolescents, even those within the LGBTQI+ community. All forms of GBV are worrying in today's context of rising regressive laws and rollbacks in rights and freedoms, but tech-facilitated GBV has the potential to do widespread, deep, and instant harm to both individuals and entire groups of people by weaponizing technologies that for many are empowering and transformative. This form of gender-based violence magnifies the inequalities that women and girls already face offline. In conflict and fragile contexts, it becomes even more dangerous. Used to intimidate women and girls were peace builders, journalists, human rights defenders, and community leaders. For Canada, the tools we use to advance gender equality must be broadened to now tackle hate, exclusion, discrimination, and power online. This increasing complexity only reinforces our belief then investing in gender equality is one of our best buys for international assistance funding. It is central to economic growth, to social cohesion, and to poverty reduction. It encompasses efforts to eliminate SGBV and sexual violence and contributes to stability, fosters innovation, and advances shared prosperity for all. This is why Canada has invested in initiatives that promote safe, inclusive, and rights-based digital spaces, particularly for women and girls. Globally, Canada works through international platforms such as the Freedom Online Coalition and the Global Partnership for Action on Gender-Based Online Harassment and Abuse to ensure that digital inclusion and online safety remain global priorities. Across Africa, we work to build digital literacy and resilience for women leaders, activists, and youth, to strengthen policies and digital and technology design to address GBV, and to support feminist movements that tackle head-on gender disinformation and abuse. In Kenya and Benin, Canada is proud to collaborate with UNFPA through the Making All Spaces Safe, or MASS program, to advance survivor-centered responses to technology-facilitated GBV, helping to develop tools, research, and community-based approaches that empower women to reclaim digital spaces safely. In Kenya, we also work with organizations such as Oxfam, CARE, and dozens of women's rights organizations to shift gender norms, to build systems, and to provide services to prevent and address all kinds of gender-based violence, including online ones. We are paying attention here and in Uganda as campaigning ramps up for national elections in both countries. We know that women candidates and those supporting them face spikes in online harm in these election periods, and that anti-rights language is regularly used between political opponents. I will now conclude my remarks in French. Au Bénin, le projet MASS s'inscrit en complémentarité avec plusieurs initiatives.
This project is part of many initiatives that are supported by the Canadian violence and the fight against GBV. So we have deployed a lot of through centers, teams that work in partnerships with UNICEF and other groups. Now, this is also to promote the political participation of women and also with national associations in Kenya and Benin and other countries to ensure that professionals can also work in security in collaboration with Education International and the Forum for African Educators. So for this, no platform, no country, no organization can handle this sexist violence online alone. So this calls for collective action. So governments and the technological and the civil societies need to collaborate and also to come together with the service providers so that we can also work alongside survivors to reinforce this work. So technology providers should have rules that are clear. Not only women and girls need to be protected in the online spaces, so when they also need to be protected as leaders and decision makers. So as we are here online today, so our common engagement is inclusive to the so that it is secure for all. We would also like to know that technology sets more people free. So we are also aware that this space is a space for liberty, dignity, and equality for all girls and women and all individuals. Thank you.
Very much as well, His Excellency Joshua Taba, and to all our speakers as well for those opening remarks, for sharing data, for sharing their commitment for this symposium. And we'll continue to make sure that we're able to forge a way forward, as we'll hear from the rest of the symposium. Now, again, a reminder, and thank you so much to those of you who are in the chat. We'll keep coming back to let you know that you can select a language of your choice and that you can continue to let us know where you are tuning in from, watching from, listening from in the chat, your name, your country, and the work that you do. Now, I'd like us to move to our keynote address. Please join me in welcoming Quinta Wambulwa, who will speak on Voices of Experience, Pathways to Change. Quinta, we invite you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Janet. Good morning, everyone. It's such a great honor to be here to give the keynote address. First, I'd like to share my story. I am happy that this symposium is centering survivors' voices, and myself as a survivor of TFGBV in 2018, my ex-boyfriend sent my news to the public. It broke my heart. I was isolated. I struggled with depression, with anxiety, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and family really came in to support me. And through therapy, I was able to even start my own foundation, Girls for Girls Africa Mental Health Foundation, to support other survivors access mental health care and justice. Since 2018, it's been very hard, even in accessing justice, but I'm happy to see different stakeholders rallying and pushing for survivors in accessing justice. Now, with your permission, allow me to read my speech, because behind every statistics that we will discuss here, there is a human story like mine. When survivors share the experiences, they don't just recount pain, they reveal pathways to healing and transformation. And when survivors are heard, systems change, policies shift, communities awaken, and healing begins. What I experience is not unique. Across Kenya and sub-Saharan Africa, TFGBV is growing very fast. According to UNFPA Making All Spaces Safe, 73% of women in Kenya have experienced cyber violence, yet only 10% have reported it. That means 9 out of 10 women suffer in silence. The impacts go beyond the screen, all the way from mental distress, social isolation, reputational damage, and even economic loss. It silences women's voices in politics, in business, in activism, and media. It's a digital form of control, one that reinforces the same gender inequalities we fought offline for decades. That's why the MASS program is so critical. It moves us from awareness to action through strengthening response systems, investing in prevention and digital literacy, reforming laws and policies to recognize TFGBV as real violence, building research and evidence, and fostering partnerships and collective action across governments, civil society, and tech sectors. I'm proud that in Kenya, organizations like COVA with UNFPA support are leading this work in developing survivor-centered guidelines, training duty bearers, and anchoring TFGBV responses within our national GBV frameworks. This symposium's theme, From Context to Collective Action, is a powerful call, because TFGBV cannot be solved by one organization, one government, or one survivor story. It demands a movement, one that brings together policymakers, educators, health workers, technologists, and survivors themselves. As we build this movement, I want us to remember that technology is not the enemy, it's the mirror. It reflects our society back to us. If inequality exists offline, it will amplify online. If justice is delayed offline, it will disappear online. So our mission is not to disconnect, but to reimagine connection, to make technology safer, inclusive, and healing for women and girls. To everyone here, survivors, youth, partners, leaders, your voice matters. Change begins when we choose to speak, and it grows when others choose to listen. Let us continue to amplify the voices of lived experience, not as stories of pity, but as sources of power and tools for transformation. Let us build systems that listen to those who have lived through them. Let us design technology that centers safety through safety by design principles. Let's shape communities where every survivor can move from surviving to thriving, because true change happens not when we speak for survivors, but when we speak with them. My journey is just one among many. Each of us carries a story that can light the way for someone still in darkness. So today, as we honor the voices of experience, let us also commit to being pathways of change. Let our voices not only echo in this room, but ripple into policies, programs, and possibilities across the continent. Together, we can turn pain into purpose, experience into expertise, and silence into systems of care. Together, let's make all spaces safe where every woman and girl, online and offline, can live, lead, and dream without fear. Thank you.
So much, Quinta Wambulwa, for speaking truth to power and for noting that your words have encouraged many today. You and many others are the reason that we're here trying to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Thank you for sharing. Sorry for what you had to go through, and of course for what many, many others have to go through. And you said something very profound, You say technology is more of a mirror of society, and that if it's loud offline and online, it's even louder offline. So thank you very much, Quinta. That's Quinta Wambulwa, yes, who has spoken on Voices of Experience, Pathways to Change. She has shared her story in the hopes that that can be used to continue to drive change and address TFGBV. Now, for a moment, we're going to watch a short video. This video is produced by the Center for International Governance Innovation, and it's titled, "What is Technology-Facilitated Violence?" It'll introduce us to the key concepts and realities around TFGBV, just to get us a better understanding of what we're addressing today. Let's take a moment and watch this video together.
Gender-based violence is a global phenomenon and a violation of the human rights of women, girls, and other people negatively targeted because of their gender identity or gender expression. The harms can be physical, sexual, or psychological. As our online and offline lives become more integrated, gender-based violence and its impacts now spaces. Perpetrators of intimate partner violence, stalking, and sexual harassment are now using digital tools such as social media and GPS tracking to cause harm alongside in-person violence. Digital tools have also opened the door to new forms of abuse, such as the non-consensual creation of sexual images through artificial intelligence, including deep-fake videos. The result of these new digitally enhanced abusive behaviors is what's known as technology-facilitated violence. This is not a standalone form of violence, but a digitally enhanced form of existing violence. While recognizing that technology-facilitated violence is part of the continuum of gender-based violence, there are some factors that make this form of violence especially challenging to address. First, since it occurs digitally, TFV can happen across geographic locations, with abusers being able to access their targets even when they're not physically close to them. Second, because our lives are so digitally integrated, it can be nearly impossible for those targeted by this abuse to escape TFV. Additionally, many forms of TFV are not well understood, either by the wider public or the justice system. Technology-facilitated violence has been minimized and ignored because of the mistaken belief that online abuse is not as harmful as abuse that happens in the physical world. To combat this misconception, it's vital to understand the many forms that TFV takes, who the victims are, and what harms arise as a result of it. One of the most commonly known forms of TFV is online harassment. Harassment itself can occur online or offline, and it can be perpetrated by a single person or a group of individuals. Harassment in violent intimate partner relationships has been amplified with new technologies. An abusive partner can not only treat their partner cruelly in digital spaces, but they can also monitor their partner's behavior with technology in order to control them. Common locator apps can be used to track their partner's location, or more complex tracking technology such as stalkerware can be used to monitor all aspects of their partner's phones. This information can be used to stalk them, invade their privacy, and makes them feel as though they are always being watched. Other people face online gender-based harassment in the form of sexist and threatening attacks by other internet users. One of the most disturbing forms of this harassment is what is known as networked harassment. Online messaging boards and social media sites have created new spaces for people to gather to organize harassment campaigns against individuals or specific groups of people. For example, sexist and misogynistic messaging boards have led to large-scale harassment campaigns against female gamers, transgender people, and feminist advocates. Women, girls, and LGBTQ+ people are at particular risk of being targeted by technology-facilitated violence. Intersectionality. The interconnected nature of a person's various social locations also plays a significant role in who is targeted by TFV. Black, Indigenous, people of color, disabled people, and LGBTQ+ people face statistically higher levels of online harassment and abuse. Additionally, Women and girls in leadership positions, such as politicians, human rights defenders, and journalists, are specifically targeted online. The impacts and harms of TFV are felt both on the individual and the systemic level. Individually, people who encounter this kind of online abuse experience psychological harms, fears for their physical safety, worry about getting attacked online for expressing themselves freely, and face reputational, professional, and economic consequences. On a broader and systemic level, this violence reinforces inequality and maintains discriminatory norms that limit women, transgender, and non-binary people from realizing their potential and their human rights. Either individually or systemically, one of the most harmful effects of TFV is the silencing effect. CG's Supporting a Safer Internet project conducted an international survey of 18,000 respondents in 18 countries. The results show the widespread impacts and the need to invest both time and resources into finding solutions to ending this violence. This requires a multifaceted approach, with governments, civil society organizations, and technology companies working to address these issues. Technology companies need to develop content moderation policies that pay specific attention to TFV and ensure that policies are transparent and easy to use. Civil society organizations need to develop networks to share research and support a global effort to end TFV. And governments should ensure there are practical and accessible avenues for those targeted by TFV to get the supports they need and to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. These are just a few of the recommendations found within the Supporting Safer Digital Spaces report, now available. Ultimately, all people globally have a role to play.
What a very insightful video there from the Center for International Governance Innovation. What is technology facilitated violence? I do want to validate that this is heavy, especially as Quinta said, if 9 out of 10 women are silenced, then it means that a lot of people who are joining and watching, and indeed many, many women around the world have experienced some form of TFV. And so therefore we validate that this is heavy and triggering, but still a very, very necessary conversation to have if we want to continue to create safe online spaces for everyone. Today we are focusing on safe online spaces for women and girls who are often most targeted. We now turn to our first plenary session. This is focusing on technology-facilitated gender-based violence in elections and crisis contexts. One of our speakers alluded to this earlier. This conversation will unpack how TFGBV escalates during times of instability and how it impacts survivors, communities, and democratic spaces. I will be introducing the moderator and panelists and then handing it over officially to the moderator for this session. Irene Mwendwa. She's a Kenyan lawyer creating safer digital futures through research and advocacy in human rights and tech policy. She will guide our distinguished panel that features voices from Ethiopia, Benin, and the DRC. They include Tigist Shewarega Hussein from FIRN Coordinator, Association for Progressive Communications, Ethiopia. We have Genevieve Boko Najo, a distinguished Beninese magistrate and ex-vice president of the National Commission for Election in Benin. Providence Baraka, who is a computer scientist, a digital human rights activist, and a civic tech practitioner from the DRC. For now, it gives me my pleasure to hand over this session to Irene Mwendwa, who will be moderating this very, very important discussion. Irene, thank you, and over to you.
Asante sana, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Janet. I hope you can hear me. I hope the translation interpretation team can also hear me.
We can hear you,
Okay,
Irene.
getting right into it with, thank you. Getting right onto it with my team for this session. As you've heard from the introduction, we have distinguished guests, experts, and people who've been on the front line, especially when it comes to both gender-based violence and technology-facilitated gender-based violence on different events such as elections, the pandemic, and other seasons or conflict-prone seasons in our lives, especially here in Africa. And I have the honor to begin, because of time, to dive straight into it and begin with my speaker for today, Tigist. Tigist Hussein works and engages in an organization called the Association for Progressive Communication Network, one of the oldest civic tech organizations in the world, who've been engaging communities to understand more on technology facilitated violence and to some extent even how it's gendered and how it permeates and presents itself in different seasons. But to hear from you, Tigist, is to understand how technology facilitated violence manifests itself in context of conflict or political tensions in your own country and on the continent. Please, you're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the organizers for inviting us to have this panel discussion. And I will try to be as brief as I can. I think I only have 5 minutes, if not less. But there are a few things that I wanted to mention, and not only from my country, but also including East African. In relation to technology facilitated violence, I think the ways in which it manifests, at least from what we've seen, in conflict regions such as Ethiopia, Sudan, DRC, and other places, at least in the eastern part of Africa, is a few things. The first thing is those who are reporting and calling for an intervention from international organizations or from the communities around, specifically women activists and journalists, tend to be very much experiencing harassment online. We have to understand that women journalists and activists already are working in harsher conditions because of our patriarchal and cultural settings. They experience gender-based violence, and decision-making is already excluding them. In that context, coming out as a journalist and activist and reporting on war and conflict has been one of the hardest thing to do, and I see it during the war in Tigray, and I'm looking at and witnessing the situation that we're seeing in Sudan recently too, like last week or a few days. And so there is that consistent crisis that we see in terms of confronting online harassment, hate speech, and based on their ethnic identity or gender or their political view. So that's one big thing that I see. And the other one is the idea, the conversation that we need to really capture around misinformation, disinformation around areas of conflict and crisis, where I want to use the recent example because we are all watching it, in Sudan, where war is happening and people are really having a crisis, but you see there are fake news or misinformation, disinformation that are happening that jeopardize the progress of humanitarian aid and also the activism work that needs to be done. So you see activists, human rights defenders trying to really be burdened by verifying the cases as opposed to, trying to get to the most vulnerable with the necessity that they need in terms of help and support. So there is this strategic deployment of manipulation of inauthentic digital narrative by the powerful warring team. Consequently, you see a form of delayed life-saving aid or violence that is justified by a weaponized narrative. So that is another important thing that we need to think about in relation to crisis and conflicts. The other one is also xenophobia, and this is also I live in South Africa, even though I'm an Ethiopian, and I always see whenever there is a political crisis that is happening in the nation, I see South Africans bringing in xenophobia as one of their tool on the online spaces in terms of TFGB, galvanizing the propagandists on the government lobbies to blame it on the migrants who happen to be Black African people in the place where for whatever is happening in the country is to be blamed on the migrants. And that misinformation, disinformation actually does so much harm on the online space, but at the same time also in the lives of the people. We have seen people being killed, burned, or their houses and shops being, dismantled. So that's another important thing that I want to bring forward. I'm sorry for the mess. And then of course, I want to add one more thing, which is the escalating anti-homosexuality propaganda that I see also in terms of Ethiopia also, whenever there is a polarizations of political views and when the country is trying to, get into some sort of dismantling of, a nation or something, then you see the government lobby sides or the nationalists bringing in anti-homosexuality sentimentality, because of course for Ethiopia and nothing else unify them as hatred against queer folks. And then because of that online harassment, online propaganda against homosexual people and the queer community, you see so much of people trying to flee from their country. We can mention the case of 2023 in August, where the government has used such things to actually, harm people who identify themselves as queer or queer activists by advocating for criminalization of homosexuality over and over again. So all these lists I'm trying to bring in because I want to forefront, this is my final point, Fern's biggest advocacy, that we really have to start thinking about TFGBB beyond the centralization of social media. And I think this is, for example, as an Ethiopian, for me, it's very important that we start talking about weaponizations of AI as technology-facilitated gender-based violence, or generally as technology-facilitated violence. I think this is a feminist issue, specifically those of us who are working on TFGBB as feminists. Actually, we have to pay attention to the ways in which technology has been used in multiple ways, including weaponizations of AI in terms of drones in war zones and other places, as part of this conversation. Otherwise, then what would happen is we will be centering on social media discourses and we leave out what is happening in front of us in terms of conflict, war, migration, and also, the killing of massive innocent people because of this technologies that we are not yet regulating or writing about or even having a conversation on. So all this is to say that I think it's about time that Africa actually starts speaking about this thing from multiple aspects, and how they are intersecting need to be also studied in that way. I hope I made it in time. I didn't take up your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tigist. We all attempt to keep time and do our best, but nevertheless quite comprehensive. As you've heard, Tigist has been able to show us the pipeline of how it moves from technologies are used to facilitate harms both online and offline through surveillance of communities in countries, especially in the Greater Horn of Africa. She's also used examples of xenophobia in different parts of the southern of Africa, where now immigrants face direct attacks to their businesses, to their lives, to their loved ones, and also being cast out of society. This means then many are losing out on opportunities from violence that arose online and permeated and got itself into the real world. But I will go very fast then to Boko. Boko is an honorable guest from Benin. She analyzes how women are involved in elections in West Africa. And so far she's been able to coordinate and see,
Irene, we are struggling to hear you. There seems to be an interruption with your network. Please let us know if you can hear us. From our end, your picture is frozen. and the sound is breaking a little bit. So please let us know if you can hear us. I can see Genevieve, you're almost ready to go. Please give us a moment. We're just trying to reconnect with Irene before she can invite you to give your presentation. Okay. Genevieve, please, if you can hear me, please continue with your presentation until we're able to get a hold of Irene. Kindly continue because we can see you.
Mesdames et messieurs, distingués participants, mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, good morning. It's a great honor for me to participate in this reflection on gender-based violence facilitated by technology. Since 2024, participation of African women, the representation of women in African parliaments has increased by only 1 percentage from 21% to 26%. Ladies and gentlemen, we have noticed that this increase is not great. We have noticed the lack of equality because women have known political violence. They have been the target of violence. And with the coming of the digital technology, there have been more and more attacks, sexual attacks against women, toxic conversations that show in different forms. Women are attacked online, and many of them have known this violence, especially those who try to get into politics. We have seen online violence that targets their participation in politics and tries to stop them from this participation. We have also seen hate messages against them and attack on their private life, their morality. We have threats, sexual, physical, and sexual violence. We have also noted the defamation, the speeches that try to stop women from advancing. We have also noticed the different types of terms that are used, the images that are shown online. We also have denigrating campaigns against women that have been used during election campaigns. This type of violence is used in order to sow confusion and to stop the women from advancing. We notice also the fact that this violence has very deep consequences on the lives of women in general. It discourages them from advancing, and we have also noticed that it curtails their presence in this field. There are so many who just give up and do not continue their participation in election campaigns. We have, as you have had, this type of violence is known in other countries also through fake news and so on. And then there's also the kind of information that destroys their reputation and brings in a climate of fear on the part of women, and also promotes inequality. We also I'm also trying to observe time, but I would just like to add the fact that we need to reach the young generation and encourage them to take opportunities, and also to look at the possibilities of the democratic space, which we note has now reduced. I would like to propose some recommendations against what is happening against women, how we can manage the fear that is sown and that is created in women. We have networks, for instance, that we can use, especially to fight stalking and other forms of harassment. There is, for instance, the protection of victims that we can promote through different ways. I think we can also look at how the magistrates, the police also can promote sensitization campaigns on the fight against this sexual violence. We also have the fact that we can have programs that promote equality. We can also promote research and data collection so that we have statistics on this matter that we would be able to use in in our actions. We also could have a regional coalition to harmonize laws, and especially for the West African region. I think we also need to have strict measures, internal measures against sexist tendencies. We need to be able to also punish all forms, because we know that this happens in among the people, and we need to promote solidarity and to have one objective to fight this violence, and also to spread information on the question. We also need to be able to fight for change through campaigns, sensitization campaigns. So those are the recommendations I wanted to make. Thank you so much for your attention.
I think from Boko's recommendations combined with what Tigist has shared, I've heard quite clearly there's an intergenerational dialogue that is quite rife between consumers, creators of some of the content we see online, and how it ends up especially and permeates and becomes technology-facilitated gender-based violence. So I'd like to invite Providence, who will share with us, even during things like conflicts in our countries, the election season, as a young person, you know, what role do you play and how do you contribute in ensuring that, of course, Baraka, that from what, or from the context you're in, how do you curb things like TFGBV from spreading? How do you support some humanitarian organizations and digital actors when it comes to protecting women online in emergency situations? Karibu sana, Providence.
Thank you so much, Diary. I hope you can hear me, but I'm not sure if you can see me.
We can't see you, but you can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Points out some factors that have contributed to increase women vulnerability in time of in context of conflicts. And first of all, we have the deep-rooted social, cultural, and patriarchal norms enforced by religion, Also, we have the conflicts with political and ethnical implications. And we also have the gender-based violence that has been used as a weapon, and especially the sexual and physical violence against women in within communities that are involved in the conflicts. And finally, the violence that has extended from the battlefield to refugee camps, especially refugee camps where women were supposed to have relief and support after and during different forms of atrocities. And these factors have not only contributed to increase women vulnerabilities, but they have also made TFGBV somehow normalized as a continuity of violence through digital technologies. And yes, and for instance, in the community, we have seen forms of violences online that are targeting women, and where especially women have been reduced to the fact of being a woman through attacks on their physical appearance, marital status, or lifestyles, and especially in contexts that the civic participation, their participation in the political matters is very, 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 very important. And in the community, so we have seen quite a number of resilient strategies, but it's very important to mention that a lot of focus is on the gender-based violence in general, especially the sexual violence and physical violence, and little focus on TFGBV. And a lot of initiatives in the community have been trying to address gender-based violence, especially by providing psychological, clinical, and other forms of support. But TFGBV is somehow ignored, or I don't know if I can say normalized, because I don't know, it feels like it's normal for a woman to be attacked on social media if she's talking about politics. But I can't forget to mention initiatives here locally that have tried to train young women to be cyber aware, and also train women to support each other when it comes to violence online. But I think this is also an important opportunity to reimagine which approach can work better as we envision to integrate TFGBV into GBV and ICT programming, because efforts have been done so far. Government have been deploying funds to address GBV, but a little effort has been there to address TFGBV, and have seen quite a number of provisions of laws like in the Democratic Republic of Congo to address TFGBV, like the digital code, but the government has not been able to put in place mechanism or law enforcement mechanism to address that question particularly, because the digital code was supposed to put in place competent authorities that can deal with violence happening online through digital tools. But so far, since 2 years ago, 2 years now, nothing has been done to address those issues. So that's what I want to mention for now. And yes, I don't know if I was supposed to mention something else, Irene.
No, thank you, Providence. Just to bring all what our speakers have shared quite clearly, there is a focus issue that's arising where in conflict zones, definitely some focus is being put in addressing gender-based violence happening in those communities, because of course of the contact that arises, because you're able to see some of these harms physically on someone's body and so forth. even when, as Providence, Tigist, and Madam Boko said earlier, even when it translates online, people are being harmed psychologically, losing economic opportunities, and losing out on continuity of their lives on things such as education, business, even from xenophobic attacks, as Tigist had brought out. Another thing I'm hearing quite clearly is that there are mechanisms in our countries. The Providence is mentioning a very clear example of coordinated process by the government to really ensure that they apprehend some of these coordinated attacks online and to ensure that justice is served for the victims and survivors of some of these different forms of violence that's happening online, or TFGBV as we call it. In this inaugural, I would say, symposium on Africa TFGBV is to start from a place of a glass half full, where we have made advent steps, we have made necessary connections and linkages of some of these technology facilitated gender-based violence and harms. And we have laws, we have frameworks, we have guidance that can be used to prosecute one way or another if our governments put and consider resources to ensure that it's curbed even before it is it grows, especially in seasons like elections. I think Kenyans on this call, on this webinar, will agree with me. One of our biggest core businesses is the election and political season, which is to some extent a business. We've seen coordinated attacks against different groups. We've seen coordinated and very sophisticated abuses coming up or arising. Very important to note that TFGBV continues to morph and take shape and forms that if we are coordinated, we can put a lot of preventative measures. And to just close us off is to say thank you to all my wonderful co-panelists for sharing your context. If you have any links of some of the resources you've been talking about, please remember to put them down in the chats, and I would like to hand over back to you, Janet. Thank you so much.
So much, Irene. And yes, as a Kenyan, I can attest to what she's saying. Elections and politics in Kenya, I don't think the cycle ever ends. It's almost nonstop. And again, to Irene's point and that of her fellow speakers and panelists, there are coordinated attacks that really discourage even women in political participation. So thank you all for that very, very insightful plenary session that gives us insights into what more governments can do, what other mechanisms can be put in place to really push back on something that one can even say is a predictable cycle of TFGBV. We know that elections are coming, for example, in Kenya in 2027, and we do know that already there are going to be coordinated attacks against women who are vying for political seats. So it's about getting ahead of the issue and using whatever mechanisms we can. Once again, thank you so much, Irene Wendwa, for facilitating that plenary session. And again, thank you so much to our participants. Please stand by, because even as we take a wellness break, what we're calling an African wellness break, I want us to still be around and listen in, because I'm going to welcome somebody who I've had the pleasure of engaging with her work as well before. Wangoi Kimani is going to come here and give us a poem. She's somebody who speaks very passionately about these issues. She's going to give us a poem for the next few minutes. Stretch, take a break, but do not go anywhere. It's a few minutes and we'll be back to introduce the next segment of this inaugural TFGBV Symposium for Africa. So for now, Wangoi, karibu sana, welcome, and take it away.
Hello, my name is Wangoi Kimani. I'm a poet and also an activist. I went on the internet to talk about how safety has become such a strange concept for me. And from that, I got a bunch of comments. One of them said, tutakupata na tutakufunza adabu. This comment was so loud, I could hear the mob say it. Tutakupata na tutakufunza adabu. Tutakupata na tutakufunza adabu. It made so many rounds in my mind. And with every round, a piece of me was robbed. It wore different faces, and in the different phases of my life, peace and safety, both online and offline, was such strange concepts. They didn't stop there. Another comment said, ungevaa vizuri kidogo, tungekuheshimu. This particular one was from user 009ZX with 0 users and 0 decorum. I told myself, maybe I should have stayed in my house, away from these internet voices that call me names and not by my name. Maybe I should have stayed in my house, protected by the concrete walls, in the hope that my phone screen protector would also protect me from breaking, but not at this point. The so-called keyboard warriors, they worry. They worry that I'm not out there in the streets and they have no one to put their hashtags on. They worry. And that's why they hide behind the screens as they make us scream, as they can't handle our real screams. They hang on their keyboards as they make our reputations hang on a thin thread. So they follow me, not on social media. They follow me everywhere I go. They follow me home. And when the concrete walls stop protecting you, when the concrete walls stop being soundproof, the screen become a proof that someone could break through the glass of your screen and create hell in a space you call a safe haven, or even worse, on a gadget you bought with your own money. My people are being shot with bullets in form of screenshots. Our privacy has been paraded and auctioned to the highest bidder. Nikona Chai has sipped our courage and handed us another cup full of fear. See, our clothes have been torn. These thefts, these comments, these viral videos, these hashtags have stolen our dignity, all in the form of digital entertainment. They have taken our consent and made us their content. Some of these words, some of these comments, some of these viral videos have sent people to hospital wards. Some of these likes have made people unlike themselves. Some of our fingers, as they type, they have pulled trauma triggers. Some of our tongues have killed dreams. Na tukitembea kwa hizi streets, we have to look over our shoulders to see who's following us. And as we post on social media, we have to look through our followers to see who's following us. Social media has real people, since behind every account, there is a person. So as you are creating your handle it with humanity. My name is Wangoi Kimani. Thegio, Asante, thank you, merci.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate those really, really powerful words by Wangoi Kimani, her brilliant use of digital language and on-ground language, all of it around digital violence and how we need to make safe spaces, not just online, but offline, because oftentimes they're very, very interlinked. Thank you very much, Wangoi, for speaking those words, and perhaps without knowing it, for speaking for so many, which is why we are here today pushing for an end to TFGBV, the first symposium of its kind focused on Africa to to fight technology-facilitated gender-based violence, which affects so many people and so many feel silenced, unable to speak up and speak out, and it's something that needs to end. Welcome back. I know that a lot of you have been with us from the beginning. I'll try and say hi in different languages. Salam alaikum, hola, bonjour, hamjambo. All of you joining us from Africa and beyond. We do have interpreters available to make sure that you can listen to this symposium in a language of your choice. We thank you for continually engaging in the chats, telling us your name, where you're from, and why you're invested in the conversation that we're having today. It's about 350 of you, and we welcome each and every one of you. And now we want to turn to our next session. This session will explore the 5 Ws and 1 H, how we can integrate into GBV and ICT programming. How do we integrate TFGBV into GBV and ICT programming? The 5 Ws and 1 H, why, who, what, where, when, and how, using UNFPA's framework for TFGBV programming. I'm going to introduce our moderator for this session, Bernice Nudebesi, who is going to be joined by Assistant to the Director General of Social Affairs, who's also going to be joined once again by somebody who's already spoken, and that is Rebecca Kelly, who is the Head of Division of Partnerships, Research and Emerging Technologies at the State Department for ICT and the Digital Economy. She is representing her principal. Debesi, if you can hear us, we would like to hand over the session to you to moderate it along with your panelists. We can see you. Please let us know if you can hear us. Okay, we will just spend a moment trying to see that Bernice can hear us so that she can proceed to facilitate the session. Mm-hmm. Okay. Once again, we're just trying to ascertain that Bernice can hear us. We can see her, but we cannot hear her, and we want to make sure she's able to hear us clearly so that she can facilitate this session. Okay, to our participants, please bear with us. As we wait to get a hold of Bernice Nudebesi, it's just a reminder of the session that she will be facilitating, which is how TFGBV can be effectively integrated into GBV and ICT programming. The session that she is set to facilitate will explore the 5 Ws and 1 H that we often hear about, which is the who, why, what, where, when, and H, and use UNFPA's framework for TFGBV programming to ensure that there's an integration of GBV and ICT programming on how to effectively push back on technology-facilitated gender-based violence. She'll be joined by her panelists shortly, some of whom gave us their introductory remarks at the beginning of this symposium. I'll run through who our panelists are as well, once again, just as we try to make sure that we get a hold of Bernice. We have Marius Atai Gedebe, Secretary General, Ministry of Digitalization from Benin. We have Director Rebecca Kelly, Head of the Division of Partnerships, Research, and Emerging Technologies at the State Department for ICT and the Digital Economy, representing her Principal Secretary, Engineer John Tanui. We'll also be joined by Magdalene Kipkenay, Deputy Director, Gender, representing Principal Secretary, Honorable Anne Wangombe from the Ministry of Gender, Culture, and Children Services, Kenya. Together, they will be proactively trying to see how best to integrate GBV in ICT programming to tackle TFGBV in this symposium today. Once again, let's see if we can get a hold of Benice Udebesi, who should be overseeing this session. As we again continue to get ahead of Benice, for the rest of the panelists who I've introduced.
Vous m'entendez?
Yes, we can see you and hear you.
Please okay, j'ai dû prendre mon téléphone. Je ne sais pas, il y a
I think
I have everything perfect on my computer, but I can't. I need to use the phone now. Should I continue with the phone?
I think we can hear Benice. She's still trying to see if she can use a certain platform to be able to facilitate this session. Our team will advise shortly. In the meantime, Benice, if it's okay, as we patiently wait to sort you out, I would like to invite the panelists to already begin sharing their presentations or to just introduce themselves to us. So Benice, please bear with us patiently while we try and rectify your sound. I would like to invite the people who I've just named for this session, including Marius Atai, who spoke earlier, as well as Rebecca Kelly, alongside the Assistant to the Director General of Social Affairs in Benin, and Magdalene Kipkenay. If you can all hear me, please let's see if we can begin the session even as we try and iron out the issues with Benice. Marius?
Okay. Okay, c'est bon.
Encore bonjour à tous. Merci d'avoir permis au ministère numérique.
I am glad also to be here to contribute on this topic. Merci, Monsieur Marius.
Attendu.
Merci beaucoup. Je crois que il y a quelques difficultés. Thank you very much. I think there are some difficulties, but I will go on via phone so that we can catch up. So to introduce the session, so in a conversational way, we said that it would be better that digital transformation is an auxiliary to digital technology so that we can confidently respond to the challenges created by gender-based violence. That's online. We have girls and women who are vulnerable, and especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So this session is going to explore how African countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including Benin and Kenya, are handling this systematic, this topic, and what their policy is vis-a-vis technology and information. And we are using the UNHCR context to discuss it. So I think I'll now pass on the mic to Michigan, who is the General Director for Social Affairs.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Monsieur Michoagan.
Bonjour.
Merci.
Et bonjour à tous.
Greetings to all. I'd like to introduce myself so that after that, so that I pronounce my name properly. It is Giepon Mechuada. I am the Assistant Director General for Social Services in Benin, and I'm representing the Director who is away this morning. Now, what do we do? So why should we integrate GBV in our programming? I'd like to say that it is an urgent act that is needed from us, because we are finding GBV as being part of the novelty that technology brings us. So we have more people using technology and online platforms to attack people, to attack women and girls, and who are also connected. So integrating GBV in the program, first of all, allows us to understand what we are talking about when we are talking about GBV that is technology facilitated. We also need to know how this phenomenon brings about, like when we talked about online harassment, sharing of personal photos. So when we talk about the content of GBV, so we can also talk about the consequences on mental health, physical, and also economic impact on the victims. And in our programming, we can also see how to avoid or take care of victims and how to go about it. Now, when I talk about integration of GBV yet in the program, so we are also taking into about of the technological dimension and also the impact of each intervention. We need to come up with indicators to address the question. For instance, the program should also have aspects on online security and also partnerships, partners whom we can have also to help us moderate online content. But more important, beyond all these actions, is that the legislation should also integrate certain things, like Madame Kokona said, that there are some gaps at this level. Now, there is violence. These are people, the violence which touches people disproportionately. And also when we talk about the psychological, economic, and health impacts. But when we integrate this will allow us to make the programs more holistic and also to help us affront or face online dangers. Now, during this integration, how can we convince the public or technical partners when we talk about prevention or responses to GBV? Now, this online GBV that is facilitated by technology is also part of our economic development. So we need to bring evidence. We must have data that informs the question. So already we had a UNESCO study that was carried out in Africa, where including Ghana, Benin, that shows at least 73% of female journalists were victims of online violence. So this, imagine, that was an exploratory study. So imagine how much it shows that in Benin, at least more than 63% of women and young women or younger than 25 years were already affected. So this shows in school, in public places, in community areas. Now, to come up to show the extent of this danger, it is important so that we are able to reach many areas, so that we can also have a more wider data. When we have programs that touch on violence, that even we have a technology facilitated GBV that also talks inclusive development, and it can also help us to find ways of stopping this violence. Thank you. I'm the one to thank you. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation of your name, but thankfully we have found a solution for now. Thank you very much. Now, our next speaker, the speaker talked about how we can integrate this theme in the policies and also to take measures to inform and also capacity build if online security will count, and also partnerships that need to be strengthened so that we can work on this topic and also look the legislation so that we can integrate the topic in the laws in the different countries. So it is from this base that I believe that we can now move on. Also to look at the policies. We'll also now pass the mic to Madame Rebecca Kelly. I hope I have pronounced the name well. So she will let us know what to do when it comes to coordination. To you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Yes, when it comes to coordination, the question is who should be the lead or should coordinate? And as I first alluded during the opening remarks, technology-facilitated gender-based violence needs a whole of society approach, needs a collective responsibility. Therefore, to address this matter in terms of coordination, every institution has a role to play. And therefore, my approach will be a whole of government and a whole of society coordination. But it must be also have a structure. Therefore, in my view, we would have institutions responsible for coordinations of matters interior within the countries and national administration leading that. Because in every country, there is the presence of national administration from the highest level to the lowest level of the any country. But also they cannot do this on their own. Therefore, I would also expect collaboration between other agencies responsible for ICT, agencies responsible for gender and social issues, agencies responsible for justice, including the judiciary and office of the public prosecutions, and organizations of lawyers. I would also want to propose that education institutions and academia needs to be integrated in this coordination because there is need for literacy, sensitization, and awareness, even from the earliest level of learning on matters of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Now that Africa, we are leveraging on the digital technologies to grow our economies. And we need also to be cognizant of the fact that government and government institutions and even the advocacy and the civil society do not own these technologies. And therefore, in that coordination, we need to also involve the technology providers and the technology developers, the digital platform owners, our telcos, and the regulators. The regulators will be able to enforce embedding in policy, embedding in technology, the policies that have been formulated. And then we also need to have the advocacy and societies, and then now the development partners and the regional bodies. So the short of it is a collective responsibility necessitating whole of government and whole of society coordination and approach. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Nous
Thank you
avons
very much. We have caught up on time there. And the information was very concise. Our speaker said that we are all responsible, all the sectors, violences basées sur le genre facilitées par la technologie
are involved when we are talking about TFGBV, and at the same time, the information is necessary to ensure more efficiency. So there's a sector, there's a bit that is for the government, without forgetting that there are other sectors that are also involved in the fight to enable us collaborate. And she talked about education for the sector, for those who, when we talk about gender-based violence, and also for the collaboration with the coordination to help us get results. So thank you very much, Madam Kelly, for your intervention. And after this, we are working on gaining time. We now move to the third panelist, who is Madame Magdalene.
Toutes mes excuses si j'ai mal prononcé.
Again, once again, please forgive me for my the pronunciation. How could we have a strategy to strengthen capacity? How do we make it more efficient? How do we make it a sustainable priority? And also in the organization of the civil society.
Thank you, Gladys, for the opportunity. And every participant who is here in the issue of sustaining making TFGBV a sustainable priority, particularly in public institutions, civil society organizations. If I may start with public institutions, these are all organizations of government, which could be ministries, institutions of learning, service providers, along the GBV referral system, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of the Judiciary, and all that. So if we have to sustain TFGB as a sustainable priority through capacity, some of the capacity building strategies is that we cannot afford to just address TFGBV as a one-off affair. It needs to be entrenched, institutionalized in every public institution, depending on the core mandate of that institution. Each has to have an holistic approach which encompasses policy, legal framework, putting in place an enabling legal framework, putting in place structures for implementation, because institutions, public institutions, is largely charged with implementation of existing legal frameworks, policies, guidelines. So this would mean that each institution has to integrate in their operations, in their policies, in their strategic plans, in their conduct, code of conduct, in their workplace culture, an aspect of TFGBV, that it becomes integral in whatever they do. Besides, there is need for an holistic awareness, not just at the workplace, but also among stakeholders who interact with these public institutions. So the greatest duty bearer are those who are working in those institutions to ensure that they are there to existing frameworks, whether legal, and to have knowledge, to create awareness among those who are working with them. They should also strengthen the internal systems, meaning if they have to sustain issues of awareness, review of their internal policies, workplace policies, there's need for a budget a budget line to ensure there is continuous monitoring, create a reporting system. So it's a whole range of strategies that not only embrace issues of strengthening internal policies and systems, but also ensuring that there is proper awareness, working with the digital service providers to strengthen, because we need the technical knowledge. So in terms of the CSOs, CSOs are very important partners in any public institution, whether especially government. So public CSOs are the legs that touch the grassroots. They carry the flag of advocacy to ensure that everybody is brought on board to the grassroots level. They also lobby for review of existing laws and other frameworks. So if these strategies have to be sustained, it means there has to be a strong partnership between public institutions and CSOs. So that is what I can say. Yes, thank you.
Merci infiniment. En plus complet, l'intervention de Madame.
Following the presentation of Madame.
Elle nous a fait un point complet de ce qu'il faut faire pour sur le partenariat.
So we have talked on the question of partnerships. She talked about the need to talk about sustainability and to foresee the sustainability of our interventions. And for that, we need our multi-sectorial approach. For that, also the public sectors come in, a partnerships with talks about the civil society. Donc, she also talked about an multi-sectoral approach. We also need to think about the policy aspect of our interventions to create a legal framework that is appropriate and also develop appropriate strategies in institutions. We need to have policies appropriate strategies that integrate solutions in all our approaches, from the political level also to the implementation. So we can have a code of conduct for the people who are part of the discussion so that we can get the targeted results. So that is on the theme, and also develop a system of reporting that allows the interventions to be received. And finally, they also include service providers so that they can also be partners in the and also civil society organizations, so that we can also reach wider populations and also get results. That is what I hope I've been faithful in summarizing that presentation. And from there, we can now come back to the Secretary General for Digitization, Monsieur Marius. Thank you for also, we interrupted you a bit. We kindly excuse us, so we have now caught up. So over to you, Monsieur Marius.
Thank you, Madame. Thank you, all of you, for the floor. It is true that we are aware that we are connected online, and there could be a few things that may not sound right. I'm happy to be able to make a presentation on this important subject of gender-based violence facilitated by technology. There is GBV that already exists, and for us, we need to look at the question of the fact that technology amplifies this problem. We know that there is already there are some points that have already been made, and I think that what I would like to emphasize is the question of policies. You know that the violence leads to exclusion, and I think that the policy in terms of the digital space is to have a platform that promotes social inclusion for all the Beninois, whatever their gender, to give them digital opportunities. We also need to work on to improve connectivity to everyone, especially women who are marginalized. And we need to work hard so that they have access to digitized services, that they have access to tools, and this is in our digital policy, because when we leave this without any strategy, we need to work on a judicial framework, a legal framework, to make sure that the text that includes the digital aspects should not be, we need to make sure that this text enables everyone to profit from the different opportunities. In the case of Benin, we have a policy that deals with the cyber security, and through this, we have rules that must be followed, and all this has been specified. It is true that this the text does not touch specifically on violence.
Je pense que vraiment maîtriser ce processus. Néanmoins, il pourrait être possible de travailler encore sur ces tests à l'avenir pour, de manière préciser ces domaines-là. Je pense qu'il faut aussi travailler sur le renforcement des capacités. Hein, et là, je mets l'accent sur le volet formation et sensibilisation. Nous devons travailler sur, si nous voulons lutter contre le fléau basé sur les champs, nous devons travailler sur ce volet-là. Qui former? Oui, nous allons former les acteurs publics, nous allons former les magistrats, nous allons former les cadres qui étaient dans le domaine du pays pour que chacun déjà comprenne la loi, que chacun comprenne les spécificités du domaine du numérique, que chacun comprenne les dispositions concernant la protection des données à caractère personnel. Donc, et après cette formation, il faut former aussi les femmes et les filles. Il faut former aussi les femmes et les filles sur les défis des enjeux numériques, sur l'hygiène numérique, sur le comportement qu'il faut adopter. Il faut les former sur les usages numériques. À part le volet formation, il faut justement mener des campagnes de sensibilisation à grande échelle. Nous travaillons à sensibiliser les filles dans les écoles, dans les universités, les femmes en milieu rural, dans les groupements, les sensibilisations. Nous les sensibilisons sur les exigences numériques, les comportements à avoir, comment il faut protéger sa vie privée. Donc, les sensibilisations sur même les avancées numériques, l'utilisation des plateformes leur permettent de bénéficier et de profiter largement de tous les investissements que nous faisons. Il y a des plateformes spécifiques qui sont développées pour accompagner les activités économiques des femmes. Donc, effectivement, l'autre action, lorsque vous avez fait ça, il faut renforcer les capacités institutionnelles. Il faut pouvoir donner les moyens et il faut pouvoir avoir des structures de surveillance de la cybersécurité. Il faut leur pouvoir donner les moyens techniques pour être capable de détecter n'importe intrusion. Et il faut pouvoir effectivement aussi mettre en place des structures au niveau des différentes administrations, des structures focales, pour accompagner cette dynamique de lutte contre le viol sur les genres au niveau des différents ministères. Voilà un peu quelques domaines prioritaires que je pense qu'on peut agir lorsque
concerning how we can act.
La lutte contre les violences basées sur les genres facilitées par la technologie.
This is on this question of violence facilitated by technology. There's another question which has been asked, and this is the question on cyber security. I think the worry here is to ensure that cybersecurity benefits women and girls. And there I would like to say that we need to look at aspect and to see how we can deal with the question of cyber crime, and then also how provision can be put in place with the sanctions, and an institutional framework to ensure cyber security. There's the question of criminality, online criminality. I think we need to distinguish the means to be able to verify and look at sexual violence. We need to say that when women are victims of this kind of situation, they have the means to and access to justice. But in that case, they need to be informed. And that is why in Benin, we have carried out sensitization campaigns. We have often had these campaigns because it is important for the women and girls to understand and have the information that they need, because you know that if women and girls are not integrated in these activities, they will not have the information that they need, and they are going to suffer the consequences. So we carry out campaigns in the universities, and we want to make sure that there is cyber security. So that is what I wanted to share on what the women are going through. Maybe you can tell us how we can institutionalize the question of gender into the technology program in an efficient manner. There is a policy, a solution in the ministry, and like I said earlier, we have a network which we have put in place so that the activism can be carried out in every state institution. And like I was saying before, there's also the question of putting in place a strategy, especially to be able to integrate this element and to make sure that we have all these questions concerning gender. I'm convinced that we need to multiply sensitization campaigns in order to give the needed information to the girls and the women, because nobody should have to go through this kind of violence. Thank you very much. So very quickly then, because the whole room, all the participants need to react to these questions. The Secretary General from Benin, we need to avoid exclusion, as he has said. And for him, we need to start by acting at the level where we give access to the digital space to women and girls, because he notes that men and boys have better access. And in order to do that, we need to have rules that will help them. And he talked about what needs to be done as a priority, the capacity building in matters of technology and digitization, and also to the question of institutionalization of this question in our policies and our laws. So there is also the question of bias and prejudice. But the question of capacity building is one that touches on sensitization and also concerns the need to protect oneself against this kind of cyber attack. So we have been reminded that while we have advanced in matters digital in Benin, we already have in all ministries, we have put in place systems, and we have terms of reference. We can talk about the theme on gender and the digital space. So that is on the fact that the campaigns should be carried out in order to help everyone. So that is what our colleague had to say. So now I would like to come back to the room and the plenary session. I don't know how we are going to do this, but so that participants are able to contribute and ask their questions. If you can help me to know how I can do that. So back to the participants.
Right, thank you. Bernice Nudebesi overseeing that session there. Just a note that the participants can share their questions in the chat or question box, and they'll be able to be answered tomorrow. Given that our day one is coming to a close soon, we do encourage our participants to note down all their questions, and then we'll find a way to integrate those answers tomorrow. So thank you very much, Bernice, for overseeing that session. And we are actually now coming to the close of day one. But it's important that we get some reflections on what has taken place today. This historic moment of being the first Africa Symposium on technology-facilitated gender-based violence. A lot of incredible speakers and insights and experiences as well. And to just tie up those reflections for us, I'd like to invite two people, and then we'll come back and also share a little bit about what's expected for day two tomorrow. So please, can we have Peace Oliver Amuge from Uganda and Leontine Edohu Konu from Benin for some brief closing reflections based on day one before we come back and wind up officially. So Peace, over to you. Do we have Peace? Ah, fantastic. Peace, thank you so much. Please give us some brief closing reflections. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janat, for the perfect moderations for today, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a little bit, I work for APC, which is the Association for Progressive Communications, and it's an international organization, a civil society. It's also a network of civil society organizations that works on intersection of gender, human rights, and technology. So to go straight on today's discussion, which has been powerful, groundbreaking, deeply concerning, deeply necessary, and we've heard from government, civil society, human rights defenders, international partners, survivors, reminding us that technology, while transformative, has also become a new frontier of inequality and harm. We had a couple of opening discussions and sessions. And to start us off, you know, we had most of the speakers have reminded us that digital transformation must go hand in hand with safety and dignity. We heard from UNFPA in the opening welcome remarks, and they mentioned that connectivity is expanding rapidly across Africa, and it has enabled a new form of violence, for instance, cybersecurity, online violence, digital intimidation, and also informed us of what reports, the statistics that reports say, that gives us that nearly 90% of African women have faced some form of online abuse. The call to action was clear that we should strengthen laws, improve data, and research and do more research build partnership, and make digital space safe for every woman and girl. We had some remarks from Kenya and Benin, where leaders have shared, different policy actions and that they've done towards technology-facilitated based violence. From Benin, we had they highlighted the urgency of the programs that is targeting women and girls under 18 and announced a national initiative to address online violence, and which is with support from UNFPA. Across the statement, one that I want to highlight is a statement that came from Pombe Nakaja, please excuse the pronunciation. She said that technology mirrors what we have yet to resolve in our homes, institutions, and mindset. The digital space must become a space for expression and emancipation. So we had also some remarks from the Kenyan government that shared the different legal frameworks that have been put in place, for instance, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act, the Data Protection Act, and then the National GBV policy. Alongside, of course, worrying statistics of over 90 university students have witnessed online violence, and 1 in 4 women candidates face digital attacks, during 2022 elections. And in both Benin and Kenya, they have talked about collaborations that should be harmonized, to ensure that laws and survivors, reporting systems, knowledge are shared with people. We heard from Rebecca, who talked about how it mentioned that online space is not safe, and also talked about it mentioned that safety online safety is not just a rights issue, it's an economic and innovation issue. Unsafe digital spaces hold back on creativity, participation, and Africa digital economy. And then we also had some words from His Excellency, Canada's High Commission, who mentioned their commitment to supporting Making All Spaces Safe program that is currently being implemented companies on the table. We also had a survivor voice from Quinta, who made the keynote address. Quinta shared with us a conversation that really opened our mind, and she reminded us that behind every statistic is a human story, a life changed by humiliation, stigma, and resilience. Her words captured the spirit of the day, and she continued to say that technology is not the enemy, it mirrors. If it mirrors the inequality that exists offline, it amplifies online, injustices, and if justice is delayed online, it is also, and if it's delayed offline, it's also delayed online. Her call was that systems should listen to survivors, design technology with safety in mind, and transform resilience into structured care. We had our first plenary session, which was on tech-facilitated violence in elections and crisis context. We had Tigis, we had Boko, and Providence that shared, different situations, how online violence escalates in period of political tensions, conflicts, and elections, becoming a direct threat to democracy. Tigis spoke of East Africa, where women and journalists, activists face online hate, ethnic harassment, and state-linked disinformation campaigns. She urged us to see TFGBV not only as a social media, but in the weaponization of AI, drones, and surveillance in conflict zone. Tigis also shared the situation that happens regularly in South Africa, the xenophobia. From Boko, we had, she shared about the women in politics that are routinely targeted by sexualized attacks, fake news that destroy reputation and drive women out of political life. She called for regional coalition, harmonization of laws, and action-driven action that drive towards safety. From DRC, Providence also highlighted the digital code on paper enforcement that is weak, leaving survivors without justice. In summary, we had from the moderator, Irene, she concluded that TFGBB is not an isolated incident. It is a predictable pattern. Online attacks spill into physical, psychological, economic harm, and particularly around elections. She called on governments to act early, resource prevention systems, and integrate digital safety into governance and peace building. We had this last session that was led by Banis. This session shifted from analyzing actions to focusing on how tech-facilitated gender-based violence can be fully integrated into GBV and ICT programs, guided by the UNFPA framework of who, why, what, where, when, and how. The panel explored ways to make digital safety part of national development. And we saw, we had from agency, we had speakers, different speakers that talked about agency, building evidence, and stronger systems in place, and coordinated shared responsibility. And we takeaways from this section were that tech-facilitated gender-based violence must be mainstreamed, and data must be guided. Evidence and data must guide interventions. Programs that we do in our different countries, and also they emphasize that partnerships and cross-sector coordination are essential to prevention. So this is the brief summary that I can give. Not sure if I took too much time. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you so much as well. Peace, Oliver Amuge, giving us a really good wrap-up of some of the key highlights from today's symposium from day one, from the various speakers, all of whom have left some really critical points for us to take home with us. So Peace, we appreciate that. I believe and I understand that we were also supposed to have Leontine Idohu Kunu from Benin, who's also supposed to be giving reflections. We'll see whether they are able to hear us and give those reflections so that then we're able to proceed with closing the symposium today in preparation for tomorrow. So Leontine, first, I really hope I've said your name correctly. If you can hear me, the floor is yours to give us your own closing reflections of day one.
Bien sûr. Merci beaucoup. Nous remercions.
We also want to thank very much the authorities of the civil society, all the participants this morning for this symposium, where we have learned a lot on gender-based violence that is technology facilitated. It is true, and it is a new type of violence to which we have not been paying attention. And we've been thinking more of physical, moral, psychological, economic violence. But today we have this violence that is coming to complicate things instead of sorting them out. Now, normally technology should facilitate access of women to development, to knowledge. But what we are noticing, and that we have learned through the different panelists, is that this technology attacks women more, and also is distancing them from many domains, especially when we talk about the political domain and economic domain.
In terms of political domain, and during election, we also saw that this technology is used to destroy women in their privacy, in their morality, and also blocking them from getting into politics and also in competitive politics alongside men. So we also note a problem of inequality. So this also stops women from also proposing their ideas, and we use the media as well to discriminate against women through stereotypes, and we also noted through as they are noted that could also create a distance. Uh, we do not hear them, we do not want to listen to them, and so after that they prefer to hide and not speak up. I could give an example that we lived through in Benin with a female leader in the north of the country who has a husband who is away, but who has a political adversary, who is also the wife of the friend. Now, this wife came to their house and she wanted to bake, and if it was bread, she said, that's okay. There she was, all naked, bathing, and what did this woman do? Through the current technology, she captured the scene. And when she got to the house, she sent that to the husband, who is the political enemy to this woman. Now, what did the husband do? Of course, it wasn't done in ignorance, but the husband put them on the social network, where up to even the husband saw the wife naked. Those of us who had worked with women through during trade, when we were going without sensitizing people, we saw her naked. Why was it done? It is to destroy her. And that is how she could no longer compete with the husband of the other. And that is why we say that, especially in West Africa, that whether that be in Benin, Ivory Coast, or everywhere, violence, it is felt most during the electoral period, because there a lot of destruction is targeted. It is used as a means to bring women to bow. And today, people have talked about it. We are talking about it. We are also talking about it in other communications. But for us, we are going to insist on the recommendations that make them done through the state, so that the text, it is good to review the online codes, but we need to relook the legal aspects, so that people can no longer be fearful in using technology, and it will not be used to destroy women, whether it can be through an education or whether it is on an environmental forum. So that says that we need to use the law to create an environment that is safe, that is free, that is dignified, where any women can also talk about, denounce freely the aggressions or the dangers that they face without fearing. We should also say to our communities to help to support them in a moment. We cannot just take what those women have gone through when it is aggressions or danger or rapes or we cannot just critique, we cannot just use what they went through to criticize them. In fact, we need to support them morally so that they can also to move forward. Now, we are talking about us as civil society. We need to do everything so that we can also to strengthen the capacity of these women when it comes to the new technology. And we also need to sensitize the community because the people use the intelligence, artificial intelligence today to also destroy women. So we need to do everything so that we can help these women, sensitize communities, strengthen capacities, build capacities of women, and also people in the private sector. Because whatever we are saying, that also happens also in the political parties. People use this technology to stop women from occupying the posts where decisions are made. If you look at in offices of political parties, often within the role that they are responsible for social services, but it is rare to find them chairing the political parties where they are the chairs or vice president or secretary general. It is rare that we find a woman who is a woman treasurer. So at the society level, we are already doing a lot, but we do not rest when it comes to the new technologies. We need to continue to strengthen capacities of
I'm very
women.
sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt the
Je dois
reflections.
interrompre les inflexions.
I don't know that they can hear. I would like us to bring the session to an end. Unfortunately, we are running over time.
Il faut clôturer la séance. J'aimerais apprécier aussi, en s'excusant, il faut terminer la séance aujourd'hui. Et donc, la paix, donc, tout. Merci d'avoir partagé ces réflexions. Et aussi, j'aimerais remercier à tous les intervenants, les modérateurs, participants, beaucoup aussi qui font partie de cette symposium inaugural. Le tout premier sur notre continent, la technologie à facilitation du premier jour. Et encore, j'aimerais vous remercier. Vous avez nous donner un coup de main et l'agenda pour les années à venir sur le continent. Pour demain, je vais vous donner quelques aperçus. On va focaliser aux solutions et les actions en collectif. Voici donc les séances sur les données, donc la sécurité par visant à inspirer les exemples de l'Afrique, l'Est et l'Ouest, et aussi donc l'année de clôture sur mobilité des actions collectives en Afrique subsaharienne. On vous remercie pour aujourd'hui. Je crois que les intervenants ont réfléchi sur tout. Et merci d'être ici. Premier jour, donc il faut arriver donc à 10 heures. C'est à ce qu'on va commencer la deuxième journée et avant ça, on fera quel check technique. Il faut être là à temps et on dit vos voix. Merci de faire partie de cette journée historique. Merci à tout le monde et à demain.
Noi ci torturano. Non, io non